The views shared on this show are my own and not those of Fam Radio. I am not a pastor or trying to tell you how to live your life. I'm just sharing my journey. Take what resonates, leave the rest, and let's grow together.
From Ohio to Atlanta, mixing music and ministry, this is the London Elixir Show on Fam Radio.
Welcome back, cousins. You are tuned in to the London Elixir Show, where faith meets music and creativity turns into opportunity. I'm your host, London Elixir, producer, DJ, sync queen, and your guide to all things music and inspiration. Whether you're listening live or catching the playback, I am so glad you're here. Now, this show was inspired by my own journey navigating the music industry and the lessons I've learned along the way. My goal is to share those gems with you while creating a space where we could grow together spiritually, musically, and professionally. Before we dive in, let me give a big shout out to Fam Radio for providing this platform to us, and a special shout out to you for listening today. Thank you for supporting our vision and making this show possible. To further support the show, you can submit music or suggest a topic and sponsor future episodes by visiting www.londonelixir.com/show. All right, y'all, it's time to grab your coffee, tea, water, whatever it is, and let's get into it. First up is today's FaithWorks segment, where we talk about putting our faith into action. If this is your first time tuning in, let me tell you what this segment is all about. The name FaithWorks has a dual meaning. First, it's a reminder that faith isn't just something we talk about. It's something we actively live out. It's about putting our trust into action and watching how God moves in our lives and careers. But it also reflects my personal faith works, the ways I let my faith guide my decisions, both personally and professionally. This segment is inspired by James 2:26, which says, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." Each week, I share a snippet from a sermon or spiritual teaching that resonated with me and explain how it applies to life and work. And here's the best part. This isn't just about me. I'm inviting you to reflect, take action, and explore how faith can shape your journey too. This week's sermon snippet comes from Pastor Yaves Ellis at New Birth Christian Ministries in Columbus, Ohio. Take a listen, and I'll be back afterward to share my thoughts and how we can apply this to our daily lives.
But there's a danger in seeking comfort over growth. And the reason that complacency is the enemy of faith is because complacency is rooted in comfort. And comfort is birthed out of what's familiar. Say familiar. It's comfortable because I know it. And something that's familiar does not require any faith of me. Think about faith. Faith is what? It is unseen. It is not what you have in your hand, but it's something that you believe eventually will be delivered to you. Faith is the substance of things what? Hoped for. And it's never rooted in comfort. Because comfort and complacency is built on the foundation of self. See, when I got it figured out, I don't need faith. When the money's in my hand, I don't need faith. When the money's in my bank account, I don't need faith. When I know the answer to everything, I don't need faith. When it's familiar to me, I don't need faith. When I'm comfortable, I don't need faith. And many of us, the reason our faith can't grow is because we're comfortable being complacent where we are, as opposed to being pressed to where God is trying to take us. And God says, my people cannot operate in complacency, because where complacency lives, faith is often not present. Complacency is different than contentment. Contentment is saying, this is where God has me at, and I'm okay with being where God has me at. Complacency says, I know God has better for me, but I'm too lazy, I'm too scared, I'm too fearful to go and get what God has for me. And understand there's a reason and a reward for your faith.
Ooh, that was packed, y'all. He said, when I have it figured out, or if I know the answer, or if I got the money, I don't need faith. And this resonates with me so much in this season of life because I'm the type to work really hard at whatever I do. And I've shared with y'all before that if God allowed everything to work out the way that I thought it should, solely based on my efforts, there would be no room for him to get the glory he deserves. And I believe God allows me to run out of options so that I will know when the solution comes that it came from him. Running out of options is uncomfortable. Not having it all figured out does not feel good. But if I did, I would not need faith. Our limits remind us that the God that we serve is limitless. Let me give an example. For those of you listening who live in the Atlanta area, I'm willing to bet y'all have all noticed a crazy increase in your electric bills lately if you have Georgia Power. Personally, I've received some bills that have been absolutely insane, and I have not been doing anything different as far as my consumption. I'm sure y'all feel me on this. I mean, their rates have been ridiculous. So high that I literally called them multiple times to try to get an understanding of what the problem was. Like, y'all, I asked them, like, are y'all making a mistake? Do y'all got the whole building listed on my bill? Like, I'm confused. Like, because there's no way that my bill should be $400 for a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm going to just keep it a buck. It's never been that high. Now, of course, Georgia Power is not offering any solutions besides turn some lights off, and the bill was not going to be lowered by them. So after getting no resolution from them, I finally stopped trying and had a moment with God. I literally said, because this is how I talk to God, hey, God, I know you see this problem. Like, I know you see it. So send a solution. Again, in case you ain't hear me the first time, God, because I be repeating myself in prayer. God, you see the problem. Send the solution, because I ain't got it. God, I don't know how to, I ain't got it. So a few weeks later, a friend of mine hit me up to see if I was available to DJ a corporate gig that following week. I was available, so I asked him how much the gig was paying, and it was paying $400 more than my normal rate. That alone is a reason to shout. As an entrepreneur, like, every booking counts, but to get booked above your rate is even better. $400 above at that. That's how much the electric bill was. So God had already worked that out. Now, of course, I told my friend to sign me up immediately to DJ the event. And at that time, I did not have any details about what company the gig was for. I trusted this friend and I knew I would get the details as they came along. So I was just like, yeah, sign me up. I'll DJ the event, whatever. Y'all, guess what company I ended up DJing for that corporate gig? Georgia Power. Like, you cannot tell me that God is not real. I'm praying to God about handling my issue with needing to pay Georgia Power, and little did I know he was going to have Georgia Power paying me. Only God could set up that type of solution. That had nothing at all to do with me. And God gets all the glory for working that out. This is why I try not to be too specific in my prayer. Side note. Because all I said was, God, you see the problem? Send the solution. Not, God, I need some money. Because then I would be limiting how God could show up in my life. I never would have guessed that he would do it in the way that he did. So talk about showing up and showing out, man. God did that one. And that's just one example of how God works when your faith allows him to. So back to the point. If I had called Georgia Power, they lowered my bill, and they worked it out for me, I would not have needed faith to fix that issue. Would I have praised God for a lower bill? Sure. But I may have also credited Georgia Power, like their customer service, or even myself for taking the time to call them. Not being able to solve this problem myself put me in a position to have to rely on God to fix it. And won't he do it, y'all? Like, he gets 100% of the glory on this one. And my faith had an opportunity to grow through this situation. When you're comfortable, you'll never grow. So stop fighting to be comfortable. Instead, start fighting for growth. Stop fighting to figure it out and fight for more faith, because honestly, I'm talking to myself right now, y'all. Like, I love to have the answers, and I hate when I try to do something and I still don't get the results I feel I deserve. But all this is doing is leaving room for God to show up and show out, as long as I give him the time and space too. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 6 through 7, Paul writes, I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. So if God is the one who makes things grow, I need to stay connected to him. I need to seek out his plan for my life. I need to make sure I allow Him to guide me and move me even when it takes me out of my comfort zone. God created each of us for a purpose. There is no time to be comfortable or complacent when it comes to pursuing God's will for our lives. Look at the parable of the talents. The person who did not risk losing anything also did not gain anything. He did what was comfortable and hid his talent out of fear. He chose to be complacent by simply holding on to what he had instead of using it to gain more. That decision cost him everything he had. He ended up with nothing because he chose to be comfortable. I love how Pastor Ellis breaks down the difference between complacency and contentment. As Christians, we should be content with whatever God has for us. It's like that saying, what God has for me is for me. In fact, a very popular scripture is about being content, but a lot of people don't quote that as such, which is why it's good to have context. The scripture I'm talking about is Philippians 4:13, which a lot of y'all know. I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? But when Paul wrote this, he was talking about being content in any situation that God put him in. We know this because of what he says in the verse right before verse 13. Let's read verse 12. He says, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Then he says in verse 13, I can do all of this through Him who gives me strength. So as Christians, we should learn to be content in the situations that God puts us in. And we could do that through Christ who gives us strength. But complacency is when we choose to stay in something God is calling us out of because we want to stay comfortable. I hope y'all are catching the distinction. He said it very well, but being content basically says, this is where God has me, and I'm okay with that. Complacency is when God has something else for you, but you're choosing to stay comfortable instead of pursuing that thing that God has for you. Which brings us to our faith challenge for this week. Pastor Ellis said, where complacency lives, faith is often not present. So take some time this week. Are there any areas in your life where you've been complacent? Are you so comfortable in these areas that you are no longer pressed to see where God is calling you to next? And maybe you're not even comfortable, but you're just fearful of stepping out on faith into what God has for you. Or, as Pastor Ellis said, it could just be pure laziness keeping you complacent. Whatever has been causing you to be complacent, I challenge you to call it out. Be honest with yourself about it, and then change your mindset to put your trust in God. Intentionally seek Him out this week and ask Him to reveal to you the areas you have been complacent when He's been calling you to shift. Then allow Him to order your steps. You never know what He has planned and why He wants you to move differently. There could be a major blessing for you and others on the other side of your obedience. And that wraps up today's FaithWorks segment. If you'd like to hear the full sermon, search for Faith to Endure Week 2 by New Birth Christian Ministries on YouTube. Again, that's Faith to Endure Week 2 by New Birth Christian Ministries on YouTube. All right, y'all, let's take a music break. Welcome back. You are tuned in to the London Elixir Show, and it's time for Music Biz Tips. In this segment, I share practical advice and game-changing insights from my own journey in the music industry. These tips have helped me level up, and I know they could do the same for you. Let's get into it. So, since we've already been talking about getting out of your comfort zone as it relates to things spiritually, let's go ahead and talk about how that looks in the music business or as an entrepreneur practically as well. Growth does not happen when you're comfortable. To achieve something different, you've got to do something different. And sometimes that means stepping into uncharted territory. I've done this plenty of times, and I could tell you firsthand, it is not always easy. Like when I made the decision to leave my secure software engineering career to dive into music full-time as an entrepreneur. It's been 5 years now, and honestly, I am still not comfortable. I've learned that living outside of my comfort zone has become my new norm. And that discomfort, it keeps me on my toes, pushing me to be intentional, purposeful, and driven. It makes me actively search out the best ways to spend my time, even when it feels uneasy. I remember someone telling me years ago that I shouldn't even think about quitting my job until I had a $10,000 check from music. In their mind, that would have made them feel comfortable comfortable enough to take that leap. But if I'd waited until I felt comfortable, I'd still be sitting in my office at home working a job that I hate. The truth is, I didn't have the time or mental space to go after that $10,000 check until I quit my job. And once I did, I figured it out. And I did get that $10,000 check, y'all. And that's just one example. Another time I had to get out of my comfort zone was when I first moved to Atlanta. This was in 2017, and I just moved out here, y'all. Like, I didn't move in with a family member or a friend. I just was like, I feel like I'm not going to be able to quit my job if I stay in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. I got to go to a city where, music is thriving. So I chose Atlanta, and I found an apartment. I came out here. I was just like, hey, I'm out here. Let's see what's up. And that was extremely uncomfortable. It was risky. I'm a homebody, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I'm pretty well traveled, but I went to college at The Ohio State University. So I stayed in Columbus. Like, I graduated, I got an apartment up the street from my mom's house. Like, I was very family oriented and very much like community based. So to leave my entire city, all my friends and all my family, and just move to Atlanta where I basically only knew like 2 people, that was crazy. That was very uncomfortable. But it was necessary. If I wanted to give myself a real opportunity, I had to go. And there is no doubt in my mind that if I would have stayed in Columbus, Ohio, I would still be working my job as a software engineer. I would have never had the information, the resources, the tools necessary to, gain the knowledge that I needed to quit to do music full time. And the move itself was just part 1 of the discomfort. I'm here now. I have to meet people. I have to get out. I can't just stay in the house. So there was one girl who I knew from my hometown who also had moved to Atlanta. And she told me she had a show. This was like the very next week, like less than a week after I moved here. I was at this open mic sort of situation at one of the venues on Edgewood to see my homegirl perform. And she was late. I was on time. Clearly, I'm not from Atlanta. I did not know nothing starts on time here. So I'm on time to this event, and she's not there. The DJ's not there. Nothing's set up. It's just like one other group of people who's there. And I'm just kind of sitting by myself. And eventually I realized, like, okay, you are not here to just sit around. You have to meet people. Like, so I walked outside to hype myself up. I'm like, you moved here. Like, this is your opportunity. You got to speak. You got to I'm literally like trying to hype myself up. And the other group of people who was inside happened to walk outside. And I was like, now or never, girl, now or never. And I was just like, hey, do y'all do music? And they were like, well, he does. We're just here to support him. And they pointed to one of the people in the group. And I was just like, oh, cool. I'm a music producer. And conversation, led to one thing to another. And then I started going to support this person's shows. And I would start meeting more people at his shows and go to support their things. And before you knew it, it was just like this snowball effect of me making connections. And that was how I was able to establish a lot of my relationships early on when I first moved to Atlanta. But it required getting out of my comfort zone, speaking to strangers in a new city. And believe it or not, y'all, I started DJing. That was a way to get out of my comfort zone as well. Like, that was not in my plans. I've been doing music production for way longer than I've been DJing. I've only been DJing for, the past few years, like 2-3 years. And I just needed another revenue source. But the funny thing is, the person who told me I should DJ, at the time that he told me, I was not feeling his advice. I took heed to it because of who he was. And, I think I have time. I'll tell you guys the story. So I went out to LA on a trip to meet music supervisors. Some I had already connected with via social media and already had placements with, and some I didn't, and I just wanted to go to where I knew they were so I could try to make new connections. And since I was already going to be in LA, my mom, she had a friend who is connected to DJ Battlecat. And she was like, I've already told him about you, and, he's been checking out your stuff. So, y'all should link up while you're in LA. So I coordinated with my mom's friend, shout out to Skate P, and he made that happen. He hooked it up to where I could meet up with DJ Battlecat. We met at Lamert Park one day while I was in town, and it was a really brief encounter. We talked for a bit, and he was like, yeah, I've been checking out your stuff. You're a really great producer. Your page is, organized really well, but you really need to start DJing. And in my head, I was like, why? Like, I'm a music producer. I mean, like, why do I need to start DJing? I didn't say that out loud, though. I was not going to be disrespectful to this legend. But I was in my head like, another thing to learn. Like, why? And he was like, the reason you should start DJing is because it'll get you in more rooms than your production will. And also, once you get some notoriety as a DJ, you can start spinning your own music and get some clout on the songs that you're producing as well. And he was like, DJing is also another form of production. You're blending songs together, you're doing mashups, you're doing mixes. It's another way to enhance your production. And, when he put it that way, I was like, you know what? That actually makes sense. And who am I to not listen to DJ Battlecat? I'm going to listen. So I literally went back. When I got back to Atlanta from that trip, I ordered my Rev 1. Shout out to Pioneer. I ordered my little Rev 1 board. I got Serato Light. And I was like, I guess I'm about to start DJing. And I was garbage, y'all. Like, transitions, everything, trash. I had to get a few lessons from some of my DJ friends, and they were, shout out to DJ Mr. J, shout out to DJ Toots, like, y'all really, shout out to who else, Mixmaster Ice, like, y'all are my DJ village. Y'all really helped me out early on. Thank you so much. But I was garbage, y'all. Talk about uncomfortable. Like, and there are already people doing it, like, that be in your head, like, they don't need another DJ, like, why should I? But very quickly, I realized, like, this could be a good skill to have. And that very next year, there was a writer's strike in Hollywood. And praise God, I already had been learning how to DJ. Because, I even had a residency already at that time. But if I had not, I don't know what I would have did for money in that season. So, sometimes the discomfort is urging you or, nudging you toward doing something that is going to be beneficial in a future season. So pay attention to that. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. Just get the practice sessions out the way, get the early parts out the way. So that way, when you need it, you'll be ready. The lesson here is really simple. If you wait to be comfortable, you'll wait forever. Sometimes you've got to step out of the familiar and trust that the discomfort is pushing you to where you need to go. So that is your takeaway for today. Step outside of your comfort zone. I don't know what that means to you, but that first thing that just popped into your head, that's what that is. So get outside your comfort zone. All right, y'all, it's time for our music break. We will be right back with more from the London Elixir Show. Welcome back to the London Elixir Show. I am your host, London Elixir, and I'm so happy you are still locked in with us right here on Fam Radio. All right, cousins, it's time for the Cousins Corner. This is where I dive into the topics you submitted, your questions, stories, ideas, whatever it is. We're going to break it down, share some insight, and of course, keep it real. This is your space, so let's get into it. Okay, our first submission for today comes from Ellis, aka the Tax Shepherd, and he says, can you speak on maximizing taxes in the music industry? Okay, Ellis, cousin, first of all, y'all, let me say this. I am not a tax expert, okay? And my answer to this question is going to be simply that, my answer. For anybody listening, please, please, please consult a tax expert to address your specific situation. Because if the IRS comes for you, you are not going to be able to blame that stuff on me, okay? Don't be like, oh, the London Elixir Show said, whatever. I ain't finna give y'all no bad advice, but like, I'm not your tax professional. So here's my answer. All that being said, that was my little disclaimer. Here's my answer. One of the cool things about being an entrepreneur is that you have the benefit of only paying taxes on your profit. So as opposed to working a regular job, say you make $50,000 a year, they're taking their taxes out before you even see your money. Like, you will never see your gross. That net is what you getting. As an entrepreneur, you get that gross, okay? And you only have to pay taxes on whatever you made in profit. Okay, so this is what that looks like. If I'm making $50,000 a year and I'm spending $20,000 on business-related expenses, then I only have to pay taxes on $30,000. That's my choice. And the way that you do this when you're filing your taxes is to be sure to write off all of your business-related expenses using a Schedule C form. Now, what qualifies as a business expense? Y'all, honestly, a lot. Like in my case, I'm a DJ. I need gas in my car to drive to and from these gigs. I'm writing my gas money off. All the DJ equipment I have, these speakers, the lighting I use for my TikTok lives, the background that whatever I spend money on, I'm writing that off. Like, if I'm taking a client out to like meet with them about possibly working together on something, meals with the client, write that off. Car repairs, because I need my car to get to these gigs. Travel expenses, when I'm going to these sync conferences to network and do some market research and to learn new things that will be better for me in business. All of that, the flight, the hotel, the money I spend on food while I'm going, any Ubers that I have to take, all of that is business related. Tickets to those conferences, like all of that, event expenses, like those are business expenses. And honestly, there's a lot that you could write off. Basically, I write off anything I pay for that I would not have to pay for if I was not an entrepreneur. That all goes on my Schedule C, y'all, and my Schedule C be full. There are many other ways to maximize your taxes as an entrepreneur, but I'm gonna leave that to the experts. Ellis, actually, the person who submitted this question, is a tax professional. So if you'd like to connect with him, I'm going to give you his information. I'm going to give you like a few seconds to get, a pencil, paper, or type it on your phone, whatever, pull up your notes, all of that. If you are an entrepreneur and you need a tax professional, especially if you are doing music-related things, you could reach Ellis at his email, which is info@jlzfinance.com. Again, his email is info@J like Jasmine, L like London, Z like Zebra, finance.com. Okay, thank you for submitting to the Cousins Corner, Ellis. This next submission comes from Mason in Columbus, Ohio. He actually has a few questions all bundled up in one. He says, what is your inspiration? How do you feel about humility? How important is family and friends, and when to draw the line? And who is your inspiration? Okay, Mason, cousin. This is actually my brother, y'all. So shout out to my family for supporting the show. My Aunt Joanne, my mom, my goddad, Tim. I know like a lot of y'all be tuned in. I appreciate y'all. And let's get back to the show. Okay, let's do one of these. Let's do these questions one at a time. I'm gonna try to hit them real quick. So the first one, what's my inspiration? Honestly, I'm inspired by purpose. Like, if I see a purpose behind something, it will inspire me to pursue it. I rarely do things just to do them. I'm always thinking about the end goal, and I know that's not like a conventional answer, but I hope it makes sense. As far as who inspires me, if you want like a conventional answer, as it relates to producers, I'm a big fan of Calvin Harris, of course, Quincy Jones, Timbaland, Pharrell, Mike Will, D-Mile is fire too, just to name a few. Okay, let's get to the next one. How do I feel about humility? Humility is essential, especially as a Christian. At the end of the day, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Everything belongs to God. And just as quick as you get something, you could lose it. So it's important to stay humble and never lose sight of where your help truly comes from. Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And I'm not trying to fall or be destroyed. So how do I feel about humility? Humility is key. Okay, let's get to the next one. Finally, how important are family and friends, and when to draw the line? This is a good question. So family and friends are important, but so is protecting your energy. As a Christian, we are supposed to exercise things like compassion, grace, love, forgiveness, mercy, all of these things because God first grants those same things to us. We also have to set healthy boundaries with people in our lives at times. Another proverb. I love Proverbs, y'all. If y'all not into Proverbs, get into it. There are 31 chapters in a book of Proverbs. Sidebar. There are 31 chapters in a book of Proverbs. So you can literally choose to read one chapter a day. Like whatever day of the month it is, read that today, whatever day of the month it is. Like if today is the 13th, I'm going to read Proverbs 13. Like it's good. But speaking of 13, Proverbs 13:20 says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So as it relates about your question, when to draw the line, I would say pray on it and allow God to guide you. Every person is different. Every situation is different. Ask God how to handle it, and also be open to looking at yourself. Like sometimes he's going to reveal to us ways that we could be better. Instead of us focusing on changing the people around us, he might be trying to change us. So I hope that answers all your questions, brother. Thank you for submitting to the Cousins Corner. If you'd like to submit a topic for future episodes of the London Elixir Show, all you have to do is go to our website, which is www.londonelixir.com/show, and then click the button that says submit to the Cousins Corner. We want to hear from you. I would love to answer your questions and speak on topics that you suggest. So if you have already submitted and you haven't heard your response yet, please make sure to go resubmit it because maybe it didn't come through, because I think I'm all caught up as of today. So that was Cousins Corner. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and being a part of the conversation. Now let's take a moment to vibe out with some music and we will be right back. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here on the London Elixir Show. I appreciate you tuning in and being a part of this journey with me. Before we wrap up, I got to give another shout out to Fam Radio for holding us down. And of course, much love to you, my cousins. You tuning in every week really means the world to me. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Fam Radio will air a rerun of this episode on Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Tell your friends to set an alarm to tune in. And then hit me up on Instagram at London Elixir, the letter L, the letter X. Let me know what stood out to you most from this episode. And y'all better come up out of them comfort zones. I don't know. I feel like it was pretty convincing. If you staying complacent after this week, it's something wrong with you. Come on, y'all. Come on. Let's get up out them comfort zones. To support the show, you can submit your music or suggest a topic for a future episode. And you can even sponsor by visiting www.londonelixir.com/show. We are here on Fam Radio every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, remember, faith works when you do. Keep the faith, keep creating, and keep believing. I'll catch y'all next week on the London Elixir Show.